do a podcast on baseball. Well, it's good because that's like really because we've made friends with a gentleman in the space and he's a consultant. He has a really cool podcast company, and it's of course you want to talk about things that you're passionate about. So
Yeah.
super cool. Hey, I see some familiar names. I see some new names. Hey, Randall, what's going on? Hey, Randall, how are you? Got some team members on here. Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. I see someone from the 60603. That's Sandy. Hi, Sandy. I thought it was gonna be the 604. I was gonna say someone from your neck of the woods up in BC is tuning in.
I see a 206. That's Seattle.
There you go.
All
That's
right.
awesome. Right on. Well,
Well,
cool. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming.
yeah.
This is gonna be a fun one. This is gonna be a fun one.
I'm looking
I
forward
Well,
to it.
it's
I'm
time,
excited.
man. Let's get things rolling.
All right, let's do it. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for coming to the HA Free webinar series. This is a really, really fun episode. Becky's a friend of HGA's and has been for a long time. And I want to say that, well, I mean, I know we met on the webinar.
Absolutely.
I mean, 3 years ago. And it's been such a joy to get to know
Mhm.
Becky and to see the progress that she's made in her position. She's development manager with the Good Times Project. I want Becky to talk about, of course, who she serves and the mission. It's such a beautiful story and her origin story with the organization. But we met Becky talking about fundraising, and she's done some amazing heavy lifting with her event and absolutely hits it out of the park. And so this is going to be a really cool, just a deep dive into what she does and how she's done it as you all could tell with the topic itself with a small staff. And we all know that most organizations are small staffed, but you can
Well, the
get
average is 2.5 full-time employees. I
yeah.
think's what the statistic is.
And we're gonna get into we want Becky to share what their staff size is right now because I know it's grown a little bit over time, right? And it's also freed you up to do more of this of what you're great at. And we've always known that you're an amazing fundraiser, and just so happy to have you on. So Becky Felak, thanks so much. We're gonna get into it, everybody. If this is your first time here, my name's Trevor Nelson. Jason Ledlow, my partner. We're from HGA Fundraising. A little bit about us. We provide the most profitable auction items in fundraising. We don't just do really fun webinars and podcasts, but that's our claim to fame. But our big focus is giving away our best information for free, and this is going to be no different. So, and if you're joining us again, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for coming. This is a very interactive webinar. We have a Q&A function. You can ask questions anonymously, whatever you like. We have a chat feature as well. So do us a favor, as every week, please keep the questions coming, thoughts, experience, all the above. This is not your grandmother's webinar, so we like to share and all that good stuff. And please, that's what we're here for. So thanks so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Becky, for coming. Jay, I'll let you take. Oh, I always forget. State of the end and
State
win.
of the
We're gonna give
end
something
and
away.
win because we're going to give
Yeah.
something away.
Well, I
We
forget
always
because
do.
Jason gets to do
Yeah.
it. He's the generous one. So we give away some really fun stuff at the end of the webinar.
Well,
So
every time I
please,
let you give away stuff, you try to give away the farm, and we're still trying to hatch a few
we're still
chickens here.
recovering from the last
Yeah.
time I gave away stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a long one, but
Well, listen, I want to just start off by, we said this raising 600,000 with a tiny staff, 3 people. We understand. We do. The reason we wanted to do this with you, Becky, was because obviously, when you and I were talking about this beforehand, a lot of times people are thinking 600,000, 3 people. Holy cow, that's a lot of money. And, I'm raising 40 and I'm never going to get there. And I think, to your point, starting off to say, well, you didn't start off. It wasn't your first event that did 600 grand, obviously. So why don't you just tell us a little bit kind of about, well, you can kind of give us a background on the Good Times Project and then where that fundraising has happened and especially over the last 3 or 4 years, how it's evolved.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm so excited to be here with you all, and thank you for all those kind words. I'm starting to believe the things myself, but every time you speak so highly of me, I get blush a little and have that imposter syndrome. I think
that's why we're
to a
here.
certain extent.
That's
But
why
yeah,
we're
so my
here.
name is Becky Felak. I work for the Good Times Project out in Seattle, Washington. We run camps and programs for families who have been impacted by childhood cancer. So we actually just ran one of our summer camps last week. I was just telling Jason and Trevor, I got to be a volunteer in a cabin with a group of 10 and 11-year-olds, just getting to really get into the mission and kind of why I raise all that money is to make those magical moments happen. But yeah, we're a fairly young organization, so we're in our 11th year, about to start our 12th year, but we did inherit our large fundraising event and a few of our programs from another organization. So they were kind enough to let us keep going with our annual gala that had kind of been established to a certain extent. When we first started running it, we were bringing in like 150 to $200,000 to 11-ish years ago, and yeah, the past couple of years it's been in the $500 to $600 range. So just to kind of put into perspective what that kind of growth has been.
Yeah, 500 to 600,000 at each event.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I mean, even calling out the two, we did 2 years virtual through COVID, and kind of had a dip, but even before that, so from 2014 to 2019, we went from just under 200 to just over 500 in about a 5-year growth. So that it sounds like a lot, and I mean it is a lot, but it also was kind of steady increases year over year to kind of get to that level that we're still sustaining now.
I'm going to ask you, I know I got several questions. I know Trevor's got
Me
some. We have
too.
some things we
Yeah.
want to do.
Yeah.
If you, for people that are listening and they hear that and they're going, yeah, but you've got this, why don't you kind of just, if you were to pin it down to one thing, obviously there's a lot of things going to make up these
That
fundraisers,
is a tough question.
but if you were to pin it down to one thing that you saw that really because this is all going to come down to one thing. It's what we focus on. We focus on the big important things and the rest of the stuff will come together. And it's about diversifying. So what would be the one thing that you would say if you were to look back over that period of time that has been the consistent piece of focus that has raised the most money?
Yeah, I'm gonna say investing and focusing on our donors. So we just have such a loyal and generous group of folks that attend our event. Typically, like 2/3 of our attendees are returners each year. So
Awesome.
when folks learn about us, they get very invested. So it's having conversations with donors to learn, hey, what do you want to see in our live auction this year?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's saying, hey, what we took dancing at the end of the night away one year. There was a whole drama about that. So we're like, okay, we hear you. We will end the night with dancing, to not bend
Take
over
your shoes off.
backwards to give them what they want, but cultivating a community and an event that they are excited to return to year after year.
I think it's massive.
Well, now
They're
it's interesting
investors.
because you
Yeah.
said, you didn't say, well, we really did this stuff with centerpieces. Well, we got some new entertainment. We got a better
Yeah.
sound system. We got a
Better
better
venue.
venue.
Yeah. All that.
You
Yeah.
didn't say it wasn't any of those things. I didn't hear you say.
It was
So
people.
it was people,
Mm-hmm.
relationships, and we talk about that a lot. So would you just, if you don't mind, if you can take about how do you do that? Because you're saying I've got a staff of 3 people, and before that, and I know that was not always the case. That's a pretty recent deal. How long have you been at 3 people in your?
Yeah, I mean, just to go back a little bit further to help understand the kind of overall growth, but in that 5-year stretch where we grew from 2 to 500,000, we had kind of one half of a position running this event, and then halfway through that, I was hired. I was not hired as a fundraiser. I was on the program side, but I did assist in like the data entry and that kind of time-consuming stuff. So it was like one half plus one quarter, back then. And then about a year and a half ago, we did expand our team. So currently, I mean, I am 100%, on the gala and all our other fundraising stuff, but that is my whole job. And then we have a development assistant who now does that data entry and some of the auction outreach, again, that just kind of time consuming, feet on the ground work. So that's sort of a quarter half person. And then our executive director also supports in the role of talking with major donors to secure pledges for the paddle raise, talking with our recurring sponsors to get a lot of those sponsorship dollars. So, it's technically 3 humans, but it's certainly not 3 full-time positions.
I think everybody can probably relate to that.
Yeah.
Can I get a show of hands? Anybody who can kind of relate to that?
I can relate to that.
Multiple
We
duties
started
you're
small.
pulling. I think that's something. So obviously you're doing something, doing this with 1 or 2 people, 3 people is really, really time consuming. And you talked about, we really focused on donors. So how did that work with like your committee? How have you integrated that committee piece into that?
Yeah, so we have kind of 2 main committees. We have our overall planning committee that they meet just once a month, starting about 7 to 2 months prior to the event. And we found the most success when we are incredibly purposeful with those meetings. So we set out not only the dates, but also the meeting topics ahead of time, so that folks can look ahead to the next thing and potentially participate in one that they have a lot of ideas for, and then not feel like their time is being wasted at a topic that they maybe don't want to contribute towards. So we have a kickoff meeting that just kind of goes over the overall flow of the event, how people can stay involved. And then we love to hear, like, what are your pressing ideas? What are you coming in hot with? We then dive into sponsorships, brainstorming connections or types of people that we can reach out to. Our next meeting is talking about the event flow and the guest experience. So this is more like, what could our centerpieces look like? What is our schedule, going to look like? What are our revenue enhancers going to be this year? That kind of more maybe fun stuff.
Yep.
Then we talk about volunteer roles and the volunteer experience. And then our final meeting is kind of just an odds and ends, last little things. So we found success with that structure in the last couple of years to really set expectations of what folks are going to be coming to speak about. And I think it helps the committee feel very purposeful. So often I think committee work as a staff member of an organization can feel like just another thing on your plate. And oh my God, I have to work with all these volunteers and it's just a time suck. But being so thoughtful to plan that stuff out ahead of time helps it to be a value add, as opposed to like another stressor.
Strain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to ask Becky, how big is the committee?
Oh gosh, I mean, we will have anywhere from 8 to 15 people on a meeting, and we host them virtual and in person, so folks can come to our office or tune in, via Zoom.
Cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be giant.
I think something I think something you said was really good. You said, we're not here pushing everybody to show up to every meeting because there's going to be some stuff they're just not going to contribute to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, if you're not really if you're the person that really wants to be on the cleanup crew, okay, we're going to let you do that.
Yeah.
And we're not going to try to get you to go knock on door, dial for dollars or sell sponsorships, correct?
Totally. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Fair to say as well, though, like you lean on the committee quite a bit, though. Like you put these, that's how you're able to produce such an amazing event with such a small staff, right? I mean, there's obviously so much nuance, but one big piece, you lean on the committee. You have not just, you're very deliberate, like you said, very thoughtful with the meetings, but you also put in, I'm assuming clear expectations early, often, 7 months in advance. I think that's fantastic. But just that way, everyone knows what their role is, what is expected, all these things. Talk a little bit about, I mean, is there ever any pushback? Has it gone swimmingly? That kind of thing.
With our planning committee, it's not it has gone super well. It's not a lot of, we're very clear in the sense, our meetings are like an hour and a half once
I was going to ask how long they are too. Yeah. Good. They don't need to be 3 hours.
No. And we typically will kind of assign homework, either at the previous meeting or, a week or so leading up to it. We've done, we haven't quite done your, like, go through your phone A to Z,
People exercise. Yeah.
people exercise, but we've
Jason's
done
people
like
exercise, we
a,
call
yeah.
it JPE.
We do like a circle of connection. So thinking about like who's in our innermost circle and working out from there. So we ask folks to fill that out in advance of thinking about sponsorship of let's start the wheels turning of like, what does my neighbor's husband's, dog sitter do? Can we get them involved? Thinking
like a wedding
about
list
that.
type. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Then on our other main committee is our procurement committee, and they are very much more hands-on. So they meet twice every other week. And those meetings are about an hour, and then we expect about 10 hours a month additional time doing actual outreach to send those emails, make those phone calls to get those items. So the planning committee is more big picture thinking. It's really just attending the meetings and providing that input versus the procurement committee is much more active and hands-on work. And that one we try to be set expectations ahead of time and ask for folks to be as transparent as possible to say, we get it, your lives get busy, and if you can't do the outreach that has been assigned to you, we would rather you let us know that instead of stressing and holding on to it and putting it off. Like, we can take that on, we can reassign it, and we have had some good success with that, of just saying it's okay to not do what you say, as long as you just tell us that you can't do it.
It sounds like such a perfect scenario that y'all have built. Yeah.
I know this is going to be a question, everybody. There's somebody going to ask this question. If they don't, they should. I'm going to ask.
Please ask questions, everybody.
So please give these questions. But here's a question. So let's just say what you said with the procurement committee. Somebody says, "Hey, I'm going to do." How many people are on the procurement committee first?
About 10, 8 to
about
10.
10. And I get on there and I make a commitment and I say, "Hey, I'll get these calls done and everything by the time our next meeting goes." What happens if I don't?
Yeah, it's
how is that pressure applied? How is that pressure applied? Because everybody says, we talk about, well, we just need to hold our committees accountable. So what do you guys do to hold your committee accountable?
Yeah, so I give definitely a little bit of wiggle room to say, can we get this done by the next meeting, or can we get this done in the next week, to have that conversation. And then at a certain point, I just say, I'm actually just going to take this back, internally to have our staff do it, or there are other volunteers that say they have more capacity, so we're just going to reassign your items. So I mean, it's because they're volunteers, they're going to do what they can. And even with the best intentions, sometimes, those over promises happen. And so that is something I think I could be a little bit better with certain people. It's like certain people I think I give more leeway to because of the personal connection and all of that. But particularly we have a huge spreadsheet that has all of our places that we reach out to, and some have very strict deadlines. So those things, I'm more strict about of, okay, you're not getting it done, we're just going to reassign it. No hard feelings.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're okay with having those conversations. It sounds like that's
yeah.
But don't you find though that it's easier, just like you said, I'm just going to take that. I'm instead of trying to pound a square peg into a round hole, I'm just going to take the square peg and put it in a square hole.
Yeah.
Just like you said, I thought that was really good. I'm just going to unburden you.
Yeah.
It's okay. You're good. Because there are people, I think, that, life does happen.
Yeah.
And we make a commitment, very fired up. Everything's really good. Then I walk out, I get home and, the hot water tank went out. The lawnmower's not going to start. The baby's crying. I'm trying to help my wife. I got, all these things are going on. And sitting down and making 5 phone calls tonight just didn't happen.
Daunting. Yeah.
Something I want to try next year with our procurement committee is we've found that sometimes the people who have the ideas and the connections are not necessarily the same people that have the time to do the outreach.
Interesting. That's
And
an
we've kind of
interesting
viewed
observation.
the procurement committee as like everyone does outreach. But I think next year we're going to kind of shift to having two different roles of folks that come to the meeting and generate those ideas. Perhaps they are attendees that have been there and bid themselves, and then a separate group of folks that are maybe our camp volunteers or college students that have more time to sit down and do those emails that maybe don't have. We just had a lot of cricket moments this year that our procurement committee was quite young. None of them had ever attended the event. And we're saying like, okay, what's an idea we could package with this? And
right.
they just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. From a
So
lack of
trying
experience.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Utilize, not think that everyone has to have both skills, and create opportunities that can best take advantage of the people that want to be involved, how they want to be involved.
It sounds like you, if I'm assuming you've always, I mean, I guess the question is, have you always just been this easy going with the idea of having these conversations with people, or is it something that you've had to train yourself just through experience and year after year? And
I think a bit of both. I
yeah.
mean, I think I've always been a fairly confident person in kind of approaching people in what might be a hard conversation. But I think also, yeah, just I said there's a couple people that I could have been a little bit more, forward
Panderous
with,
with,
but
yeah.
because of whatever the, past relationship has been,
Yeah.
still definitely room for improvement.
Inevitably,
Well,
this comes up with every conversation that we have with every webinar. It's like, I have this
yeah.
person that's a stick in the mud. I need to talk to them, or we need to get this person off, or what. So so many folks struggle. It sounds like you don't have it easy, but
Well,
because of all the expectation,
let me just
that you
ask
set in
this.
place.
In your experience, how many people have said, fine, you got it, and you never talk to them again? How many times has that ever happened?
Zero.
Yeah,
Zero.
it's awesome.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's one. So one of the things that I think that we have a fear of is
Yep.
when we talk to somebody and we're doing this, that we have a fear that they're going to walk away and never talk to us again, that we're going to offend them
Disappointment, yeah.
somehow.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So what about somebody that you said, hey, look, I can see you're kind of piled up. What's going on? What can I do to help? Uh, has anybody been offended by that? Has anybody like maybe called you back and said, I don't like the way you talk to me, Becky. I don't think that's very nice.
No, it's just honestly been appreciation and apology.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I really want everybody to really lean into that.
Everyone struggles with this so much. Not
I
everyone, but you get
think
my
this
point.
is
So many
we're
people.
so afraid of confrontation that it's not confrontation. It's connection.
It's communication.
And
Yeah.
having that time, taking that step, and I just really I'm so glad you said these things, because that's one of the things that I think can I get a hand? Anybody here who's afraid of conflict?
Believe it or
And
not.
who steers away? It's
Believe
me.
it
I
or
mean,
not.
nobody.
Yeah.
I remember I asked this question. I said, how, does everybody, a conflict avoidance? And I remember a friend of mine saying, well, we all do. He goes, none of
Yeah.
us want a conflict. We all want to avoid that. But the reality is, it's not conflict that we're trying. We're holding people accountable, having those conversations. I call it an uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
Is something that once we have it, 99.9% of the time, it's going to go fine. And if it doesn't, it was never going to go right. If it didn't go right, it would never go right. It wasn't you by bringing this up. It was just that this was a bad fit. This person probably didn't need to be on your committee in the first place.
Yeah.
They probably don't need to be a part of your organization, because if they care, then
it's a no-brainer.
Like what you just said, Becky. It's like there's an apology coming. Oh, wow. And I'm not going to tell the story, but I told the story about how I was held accountable one time because I wasn't holding my end up. And when I got held accountable, it's what I needed. I needed to be held accountable on this committee I was on, because I did, I could do it, but I wasn't prioritizing it. Once I made it a priority, moved it up in the level, and then I was able to excel at it. And I think that we all have people in our sphere, in our committees, all that are around us, who have a tremendous amount of capacity to do great things for us. But because of we don't hold back, because we don't say anything, they tend to think, well, they've probably got it handled anyway, because if they didn't, they'd say something to me.
The old no news is good news thing. Yeah. Yeah. True story. No, it just sounds like you just obviously you communicate early, expectation early. Everyone, you all are raising money for a particularly heartfelt mission. I think that it's, but I will, Jason and I have said this so many times, and we will continue to say this. If you always go back to that, then it shouldn't be that uncomfortable of a conversation because, it's like, hey, you're like, I'm Becky. You're not doing it for me. We're doing it for the kids. So this is, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So I think that if you can always make sure, just the audience and folks watching as a recording and what have you, if you can make sure that you always put the onus on the mission, and that's the reason why, then if you do that early and often, there should be no question. And then another thing, everybody, I know everyone really does struggle with this at some point or another. It's totally human and okay. Don't wear it if someone, if there's confrontation, it's not you. You know what I mean? It's them. Unfortunately, I mean, we all know, and that's okay too, by the way. We need to
Mm-hmm.
give people grace, but if you're working towards something like this, or building something, yeah, everyone should be on board. Obviously, you have a conversation, It's not easy sometimes. I totally get it, but it
From a
comes up
practical stand,
inevitably. Yeah.
yeah, from a
Mm-hmm.
practical standpoint, Becky, how what is the percent like breaking it down, like how much of a percentage of your fundraising is happening pre-event versus night of?
Good question.
Okay, let me see.
Ooh, we're gonna get in the nitty gritty here. Cool.
I know.
Let's stop talking about committees. Let's stop
Right, right.
talking.
Okay, so about, let's see, 6% of our income is about in sponsors. Admissions is about 12. I'm gonna say it's probably close to 30% of our income is either received or pledged before the event.
Does that include like tables, underwriting, everything like that? Or you,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. Paddle raise amounts. It might be, gosh, it might be a little bit more than that. Maybe closer to 40.
so so your spot what like just let's just say out of $600,000, how much did y'all raise like in table sales and underwriting?
Yeah, so last year we were at 550 was our total.
So your
And
pre-event fund, your okay, 550. I'm sorry, keep going.
yeah. So yeah, 550 was our overall total. Admissions were 60,000, sponsors were 32, and then we probably had maybe 70, 80,000 paddle raise committed prior to
Mhm.
the event.
So yours is
Cool.
your event's really, really night of
Night
heavy.
of, yeah.
It's really night of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's nice. It's nice walking in the door with $165,000 for sure. Committed.
Totally.
That's great. Yeah.
Well, but I think there's the key. I think this is the number one key. You've got people that have the capacity to make those kind of gifts and donations at the event because of the work that you do prior to.
Yeah. Let's talk about
Hmm.
that. Yeah.
Hmm.
So let's, yeah, I do want
How
to,
are we
let's
setting the
focus
tone
on
for
that.
that?
How
Making
are
sure we
you
have the
getting
right
those
people in the room.
people in the
Yeah.
room?
Yeah.
Because everybody says,
Yeah.
I can sell it, I can sell a table, but I've got a bank that, gives me $5,000 for the bank for the table, but then I get a bunch of tellers that show up and nothing, no offense to
I
tellers,
had a
but
conversation with someone about that this week where they said the IT company, gives away the tickets to the employees or what have you, and they don't come themselves. And then she's like, it's really
Hmm.
frustrating because we want
yeah.
them to come. And yeah, so yeah, talk
So how
about
do you
that.
guys do that? How do you get the people with money to show up?
Yeah, so I think we had 18 table hosts last year. Maybe it might have been 17. About half of those are board members. So that gives us a special opportunity to be a little bit more candid with those folks to say, a goal for each table that you're hosting is X number of dollars to help them understand who they might want to try and invite. So, you might not want to have that conversation with every single one of your table hosts,
Mhm.
but particularly as board members who are they are clearly motivated to help us, reach our fundraising goals, and they,
Right.
understand the back end of what all the costs are and the,
Mhm.
budgeting and all of that, to
Mhm.
kind of have that information shared with them helps set the stage a little bit. And then I think slightly one level down from that. I mean, the majority of the rest of our table hosts are returning folks that understand our mission, understand what the goals of the event are, and so without putting an actual dollar amount, there's language that can be shared to kind of subtly hint at, we want to fill your table with generous friends
Yeah.
that are going to be excited by our mission.
How many people came to the event?
240.
How big are the
240.
tables?
10.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I want to ask about the night of a little bit, just staying in the same vein, in the same lane. Um, like how long are we fundraising? Kind of just give us peel back the curtain for the run of show a little bit. And I know you're dancing at the end, but that's different, right?
Right, right. That's once
But
it's
and I
all
know
said
this
and
is a
done.
unique event. This event has its own atmosphere. You've built a very unique event. Obviously, it's a very heartfelt mission. All missions are, but yeah, I mean, and I know that so many folks attend that really, have a like a one-to-one connection, of course, and
Hmm.
things of that nature. But yeah, talk to us about like the timing and things like that, and how
Yeah,
deliberate you are with that.
we start the evening with about a 2 hour welcome reception. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, of course, folks, don't show up right at doors. So, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are joining for an hour and a half to an hour. So we've got a number of revenue enhancers. Our auction or our event is very game heavy during the reception. So a wine toss, we've done a Nerf gun game, different things that folks can participate in, as well as silent auction and raffle ticket sales. So those are kind of the fundraising opportunities during that 2 hour welcome reception.
Yeah.
Once we transition into the live auction, that goes for about 2.5 hours ish. Once it's, I mean,
Wow.
it sounds very long. That's including kind of a 30-minute transition of getting people seated and getting
Mm-hmm.
dinner, started and everything.
Mm-hmm.
We do 12 to 14 live auction packages, and then we end the night with with our paddle raise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Becky, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking about something that I'm have had this conversation with a lot of people. Trevor and I have talked about it. Um, Events can get a couple things happen with events that sometimes they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if we seem like we get more people in the room, we're going to make more money. But
Mm-hmm.
what we see is as the curve goes up here with people, the inverse happens. The number comes up and it flattens out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
even if we add 100 more people, we're only
Yeah.
raising the same amount of money and
More
we're
isn't always
actually
more.
netting less because our
Yeah.
expenses have gone
Cost.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Has
Yep.
that been a conscious thing that you guys said we're going to keep it to this level and create some exclusivity and some fear of missing out and people are going to want to be here?
That's a great question.
Absolutely. Yeah. We were kind of on the turning point of transitioning to a larger venue. We had planned to move to a larger venue in 2020. And then, I mean, our event was scheduled like 6 weeks after the shutdown or 5 weeks after the shutdown or
Mhm.
something like
I
that.
remember.
So
Yep.
didn't obviously end up hosting that in person.
Yep.
So then we returned back to our old venue just for the sake of familiarity coming, when we came back in person. But then the few years after that, I mean, exactly what you just said, Jason. It's more about getting the right people in the room than getting more people in the room. And that's another message I think that has helped, particularly for our board members, to say, like, okay, we are tapping out at 260, so let's make those 260 count.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, exactly what you're saying. Hmm.
Awesome.
Board engagement's a really big thing, and I know there's a lot of people that struggle, just like committees, they struggle with the board. What has been something that you've done to help, like you said, get those board members engaged, get them
Mhm.
in to where they understand that they're fiducially responsible. Their job is not there just to find more stuff for Becky to do. Their job is there to help raise money.
Yeah, yeah. I'd say kind of three things come to mind. When a board member joins our board, our expectation is that the Good Times Project is in their top three organizations that they contribute to,
Mhm.
and that they make a significant financial contribution to us each year. So some boards say, oh, you have to give, X dollars per year.
Mhm.
We want our board to be accessible to folks that maybe don't have, sky's the limit donation capacity. We don't want every single one of our board members to be in that category, but we just want to be someone that they are, whatever significant means to them. So
Mhm.
right off the bat, that expectation is made very clear. Then at board meetings, a couple of the months leading up to the event, we will have short brainstorming sessions to talk about live auction package ideas, to talk about sponsorship ideas, to talk about
You'll
table
do that with
host
the board. You'll do
collateral
that. You'll do
at a
that with the.
board
Yep.
meeting.
Yep. Amy,
Yeah.
Amy had a question about that, so we're getting into that a little bit.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
I'm talking 20 minutes. I mean,
Yeah.
not a super long, because they can get very distracted and in the weeds about stuff. And so we have language of like, hey, let's get back on the balcony. We're down on the dance floor right now.
Right. No, totally.
So we do that. And then, gosh, I had a third thought, but I mean, those I think are two of the major things of, setting those expectations and then just involving them in the process. They want to be asked.
Such a great point. Jason says this like every week, and I concur. It's just like actually, these folks are invested, literally, figuratively, all the above. And you just said something that everyone really could probably take home with them. People, they want to be asked. That's the point. And if they don't, then maybe they're in the wrong position, right? That's the possibility there. They don't want to go down a dark path. Amy did have a question about, items and do you lean on the board and what have you. Becky, I know you have some really creative live auction items. We love telling, you've used consignment opportunities before, obviously. I love the story. Well, share the story. Let's talk about the story about the sponsor that owned the sailboat and
I mean, you
was
just
an
never
underwriter.
know, what you're gonna get from a random outreach about one thing. So we reached out to a local plumber to ask if they wanted to sponsor the restrooms at the event,
Was that
underwrite
because
the
Jason nudged you to do that? Or you heard that?
100%. Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. That's a famous underwriting.
I literally I use this story almost at every coaching session when I'm talking about underwriting. Almost every time.
I interrupted. Sorry, Becky. Please go.
Oh, no, no.
You
all
wanted.
good.
Let's just recap though, real quick. I just said I wouldn't interrupt. You approached a sponsor who's a plumber, owns a plumbing company, a supporter, about underwriting the refreshing station, aka the bathrooms.
Yeah,
at
a
the
cold
event.
call. We did not have a connection with this plumber beforehand. Said, hey, we're looking for a $500 sponsor of the bathrooms. Are you interested? And then he was like, oh, well, the owner of our company actually has this yacht that he likes to donate to nonprofits for auctions. Let me get him on the phone. He's like literally on the phone on the other ear saying, hey, these people just called. What can we do? Just, I mean, you just never know if you're going to hit someone, at the right moment.
So they underwrote the bathroom, and then the owner of the company has a sailboat and used that as an impromptu live auction item.
Correct.
And then, as I recall, you sold it twice the first time.
We did, yes.
For $10,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And just out of curiosity, there's no right or wrong answer. Is the company still involved? Are they still offering the sailboat? Do people want the sailboat? Are they requesting it? Things like that?
No, they haven't done this. They haven't done the boat trip again. They were not a sponsor last year. We're hoping to get them back on board.
Cool. No, it's awesome though. Good.
I think
love that story.
This kind of ties back to something, and I think this is really important whenever we start inviting people to be part of our mission. And I know Becky does a great job with this. That's why I'm bringing it up, and I'm going to just have you speak to this. Because going and selling tables or selling sponsorships is different. But when you're sharing the mission, you're inviting people to be part of your mission. It changes the dynamics of the conversation. Because it's not like, hey, you're a plumbing company, you want to sponsor the bathrooms. Okay, yeah, I see that tie. But when you say, we're sending kids with cancer to camp, and we'd like you to be a part of this.
We're inviting
you. Here's a way that you could be a part of this. And they go, well, yeah, I've also got a boat. Why don't we put that in your auction? I mean, speak to that a little bit, just because that's one example how that happens, and I know that's why this turned out this way. But talk to that, how you guys integrate that your mission continuously into these asks.
For 3 or 4, I don't know how long ago, it doesn't matter. A number of years ago, we got rid of our sponsorship levels in the sense that we do not say $10,000 gets you a table and a full seat plus a page in our book, our printed program, and $5,000 gets you a half page and we do not do that at all anymore. Our sponsors don't get anything. If they want to come to the event, we say, oh, would you like to buy a table? We'd love to have you there. What we do instead, our sponsorship levels, we call it impact sponsors now, that each level is tied to what that money can pay for in one of our programs. So a $10,000 impact sponsor can cover our ski camp costs. A $5,000 impact sponsor can cover a week of meals for a cabin at camp. I can't remember the exact things. And we saw not one single of our returning sponsors complained that they don't get the ad and they don't get the table and none of our new sponsors have said, oh, well, we would sponsor you if you gave us X, Y, and Z. They just don't. And I know that that's important to some businesses. And we do when we have hit on those things, like one of our sponsors for a different event, there was just some requirements from their marketing team of, there has to be a certain level of naming rights or social media post or whatever. And we worked something out that is something we actually do already at our camp with signs. And they were like, yeah, that checks the boxes.
But so you had a conversation about it. You were just open having a conversation. Yeah.
Well, I think this comes back to the famous cheese tray we talk about. We use an example. Don't promise stuff that you don't need to. Why are you don't make
it's like
promises
giving when there's no necessity. It's no necessity. Yeah.
Your point is, it's not about what you're getting; it's about what you're giving into. And when you make it about what the impact of the money is, people that have capacity to give, and I'll just tell this story real fast. This was back during the shutdown. We had this organization I worked with had what they called, I guess, home captains, and they would
viewing parties.
10 grand. They would have the party at their house. They would cater all the stuff, provide everything. And one of the things that they did, they were going to give the organization was going to give a cheese tray. And one of the during the event, where I'm at the remote part, we're doing the broadcast, and the executive director gets a text, and she goes, "Oh, so and so's on me about she's really upset." And I said, "Why?" She goes, "Because she didn't get her cheese tray." And I said, "Well, why didn't she get a cheese tray?" "Well, I don't know, and something happened." And she was kind of talking about it, and she was kind of like, "Well, why does she care about that?" And I said, "Because you told her it was going to be there." Get it. I said, "She can. I know this particular donor is a good friend of mine." I'm like, "She doesn't need you to buy her cheese tray. She just happened because I've been to her home. I know she's got this beautiful display of everything, and there is a place right here that she has section for the cheese tray, because she'll buy her own cheese tray if she weren't promised it. But you said it was going to be there. She believed you, and that's why she's frustrated with it." And I go back to that. It's not if you give this, then you get that. And the organizations that we are seeing, Trevor can attest to this, we are seeing raise massive amounts of money, have completely, like you said, abandoned that whole model. It is about what this is what the mission is. This is what the money's doing.
Well, and I think that also goes back to this idea of getting the right people in the room, right? Like if a bank sponsors the event and we give them 10 seats, but they didn't really want to go, they just want to sponsor, they're going to send their tellers, versus our sponsors, half of them attend the event, half of them don't. The ones that do, they had to buy that table, in addition to their sponsorship dollars. And so they understand, they're wanting to be there versus you're giving up those seats.
So what do you call that? How do you guys price that stuff out and decide who sits where? How does that happen?
Because all of our tables are the same cost. We don't level our tables
fee, here's what it is, and then be a sponsor.
Yeah. The sponsors and table purchases are totally separate. So you can be a sponsor you can buy a table. A lot of times
we'll say sponsorships of being the table sales, and they may have different levels.
Sure.
And underwriting, and I'm just using that because to make sure everybody's on the same thing. And then underwriting would be those what you're talking about, a sponsorship level. But I think all that's really important. And you're really skipping that whole thing. You've really taken to a third tier, which is, this isn't underwriting a cost. This isn't buying a table. This is sponsoring impact. This is what you do.
I want to go back to that. Yeah, I thought that was really, really good when you said that. And I think it's a really good nudge for folks. I think, well, obviously you said, which is really, really, really good. You said that for this impact sponsorship, this is what it's going to do. It's going to cover the cost of the ski camp. massive. I don't think people do that enough, probably, right? And then you actually brand it as the impact sponsorship.
Yep.
It sounds so simple and so small, but it's so thoughtful, so good to brand these types of opportunities, sponsorship opportunities, and invitations for folks to participate. So yeah, like real tiny, but it's impactful. Pardon the pun.
Well, and
The
it's something
impact
I'm
sponsorship.
sure a lot of folks that are tuning in might on their like monthly donor sign up, they might say $20 a month pays for whatever, or just their
Yes.
regular donation form, $100 one-time donation sent
Yes.
does this. Like, let's just do that for everything.
I think that you're really onto something.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think, yeah.
I have a question. So we've got two questions here. I'm going
Oh, we
to
do?
ask them both at the same
Oh,
time
cool.
because they're going to kind of mix in together.
Sure.
So Randall asks, he says, does your donor levels change in the order to grow? Do
Mm,
they change? Are you moving those things up and changing those?
Absolutely, yeah.
mhm.
Gosh, I think 4 or 5. Oh gosh, someone is knocking at my office door. They'll go away.
It's okay.
Yeah,
I'm on with the HGA boys.
I know. The We used to have our top paddle raise level at, I think 7,500 was our top.
Okay.
We bumped it up to 10, then we bumped it up to 15. It's currently bumped up to 20 right now.
hmm
Hmm.
So so to simply answer the question, absolutely yes. And then I think I need to just let you guys talk for a minute while I answer the door. This
Sure.
person has
No,
talked
that's
knocked
fine.
twice.
Yeah.
I'll be right
Oh,
back.
yeah.
No,
We
you're
have another.
fine. You're
Yeah.
fine.
I actually, Jalen, thanks so much for that question. I was going to ask the same thing, as a matter of fact, and it skipped
Mhm.
because we're in like, listen, another thing. There's no right or wrong answer with this kind of stuff. We were talking about, like we immediately, Jason and I both asked, how big are the tables? What's this
Mhm.
one? How big's the committee? These are questions that we get weekly. And some folks nail it with 8 tops. Some folks are still nailing it with 10 tops. Obviously, Becky's doing it. Becky, how much are the tables? We had a good question.
2750. Next year we're gonna bump it to 3.
So
Ah,
you're making money on those. Okay, let me ask you a question.
good question.
Is
Yeah.
that just covering expenses, or
No,
you're building profit?
it's about 40% pure profit.
Good, good.
Good for you.
That was what
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, is because I was going to say we
Great
were doing
reminder.
I had a
Great.
coaching session the other day, and we were talking about, and I said, well, this is what your table cost is, and we were talking about the minimum cost. She goes, yeah, I'm not making very much on that lower end, am I? And I said, no. I
Yeah,
said,
you don't want to lose money on the
she kind
tables.
of got this, like you saw the little bubble, the light bulb came on. She's like,
Yep.
oh,
Yep.
I found some more money I can go get.
A
And
couple things
Right.
happened.
yeah.
A couple things happened there too, though, real quick, Jay, is that you're gonna bump it from 2,750 to 3,000. I'm gonna go ahead and presuppose that no one's really gonna be, oh my gosh, it's 200. No, they're
Yeah.
not going to be. And then guess what? The next year, you're probably gonna ask 3,250 or 3,500 because everything in everyone's life is following that same trajectory from a cost
Hmm.
perspective. That, you know what I mean? Like Jason's doing a lot more coaching calls than I do, and but we're saying this week in and week out. It's like, you want to make more money? Ask for more. I
Yep.
mean, you can ask for more.
Yeah.
It's really okay because everyone is asking for more, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm
In
gonna get to
every
this.
walk of
I'm
life.
gonna wait on your question, Lori, but I promise you I'm gonna
Yeah,
get
I
to it
like
because
that
it's a good
question though,
question.
Lori. There's a good
But
answer for that. Yeah.
because I want to come back to this, and something that we're having I was having a conversation with somebody on a coaching call. I think it was day before yesterday, and she was like, well, who do I, where can I go to do this? And I said, well, go to your biggest fans, go to your donors, the
Hmm.
people that are giving you money now, and having those conversations, because I think we miss a huge, I just know this.
Mhm.
I'm convinced of it now. I think so many times as nonprofit professionals, we miss incredible opportunities to raise more money, to get deeper with somebody,
Mhm.
because
Hmm.
we assume that they've hit a cap.
Hmm.
We start putting our ability to give, or what we think is a
Insecurity,
lot of money,
fear, everything.
on
Yeah.
their
Yep.
ability to give,
Yep.
Right. Right.
when they're not even, we're not even in the same continent about ability to give.
Well, Becky already said that earlier as well, and it's the same thing, alluding to it, is that you said they want to be asked.
Hmm. Hmm.
These folks want to have these conversations,
Yeah.
right?
And gosh, there's nothing more awkward than saying, okay, we're going to start the night at $20,000 and it's crickets. Like
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
get, go into it knowing that we're going to have something exciting to start that paddle raise off
Well,
with.
let's just do this. So Lori's question was, how do you paddle raise prior to the event?
I mean, conversations, I think, is the easiest answer to that.
The pre-committed dollars.
We look at the folks that our top, however many folks or folks who are at 10,000 or above. And, either myself or executive director just has a conversation to say, hey, are you planning on coming again this year? Depending on the person and kind of the way that our conversations have gone in the past, we kind of asked either one of two things. What is your overall spending goal for the evening, and how much of that do you think you want to be a paddle raise versus, hey, you were at 10 last year, would you feel comfortable at bumping up to 15, or can we count on you at 10 again? So kind of depending, there's two very specific people that we say, what's your overall goal for the night, versus here's what you did last year, can you bump up, or, are you willing to do the same?
Two follow-up questions to that, because we got 10 more minutes. How far in advance do you have that conversation typically?
Those start maybe 4 months-ish in advance.
Okay. So right around the turn of the year, because your event's typically in April. And then because you say the overall, spending for the evening, because these folks are not only giving in the paddle raise, they're giving in the silent, the revenue enhancers, the live.
Yeah.
So what you've also noticed, I'm not trying to like push our, our opinions on this, is that those are different budgets that they're pulling from. It's like, this is my paddle raise budget for the night, or my donation budget. These people are the ones that are buying the sailboat experience and things of that nature as well. So definitely, please, folks, realize that, right? So they're coming from different budgets and they're going to spend in different ways, and people that have capacity do that,
Yeah. We have one in particular who, their budget is typically around 50,000 for the event, which is, obviously amazing.
Totally.
But then if we can kind of keep a running total on our end as they are, consuming wine and enjoying the evening, there's that opportunity at the very last, moment after the paddle raise. Our auctioneer always says, like, okay, does anyone else, have anything else they want to give? And if I give him, the signal, he knows to put, a slight bit of extra pressure on that attendee who, might then realize, one year they literally, after our paddle raise, said, can I do 10,000 more? We're like, clearly, yes.
Yeah. I like that. I like when that happens.
I want to bring something up right here, and I think this is the key to everything that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I made a comment. I asked a question before. I said, "Tell me about your pre-event fundraising, your night of fundraising." What I'm hearing you say is that the majority of your fundraising is pre-event. Yeah, the event's the celebration. It's the deal where things come in, and great things can happen. Somebody says, "Hey, I want to give another 10,000." But I think that's the whole key. And I think when we have these conversations, and we have real conversations and build these relationships with our donors and talk to them and understand their stakeholders and have those questions. Trevor, last year you sent 10 kids to camp. Gosh, that was amazing. How many kids do you want to send this year?
Yeah.
And Trevor goes, well, I don't know, let's send 20 this year.
Yeah, whatever.
Because we're talking about impact and these things that are happening. I would just implore all of you, have these conversations with your donors. Don't be scared of them. They're just, I guarantee you, they want to be asked.
Let's keep saying that.
They
want to be asked.
They want to have these conversations because they care.
Yeah.
They're giving you these significant investments, and people that have money typically were smart how they got it. They're smart how they keep it invested, and they're smart how they give it away. And they want to know their return is emotional. They're giving an emotional return. They want you to succeed. They want your mission to happen. So,
and the more conversations you have with people, that gives you, more leverage the night of. If I go and ask, Sally Smith what she might be excited about bidding it on in the live auction, then if we get that, our auctioneer could say, hey, Sally, I know that you wanted this.
You want to go there.
Don't let them outbid you.
Yeah.
So if you involve the donors in that planning process and find out what their guests might be excited about, what they're going to be excited about, it just kind of runs on its own at that point.
You set it in place early, though. Yeah.
And,
totally.
I will say, people that have significant capacity to love, they like exclusivity. They want to hang out with other people that got money. And when you make it smaller, you can, and when I say control, you literally can control things a lot better because you have the ability to
Mm-hmm.
say,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh yeah, Sally Smith, and we've got these notes and we have these conversations. We're tracking all this stuff
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
uh, to make sure that happens." I think that's really insightful to hear that, and I want to encourage everybody out there. You're going to feel like your hair's being blown back. You're going to say, "Wow, there's no way I can do all this stuff."
Mm-hmm.
If you had to pick, and we're going to wrap up on time here in just a
Mm-hmm.
second. But if you were to pick and you were starting over with a completely new event, what were the top three things that you would focus on, Becky?
Ooh, good question, Jay.
What
Coming
a
in
good
hot at the end.
question.
At the end. Oh, I had a follow-up question to that too. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, I mean, I hate to just keep saying connections and conversation, right? I would think
Mm-hmm.
about who I want to be at this event, and then let's get their input, and their buy-in to then lead to their participation and, generosity at the event.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a big one.
Mm-hmm.
I think creating a fun experience that they want to be at
We
would
love
be
that.
another one, right? Like the
We love
mission,
that.
the mission I think is my third one, but the
Mm-hmm.
mission is what's exciting to, or what's drawing them there, but the
Mm-hmm.
experience and the mission and the impact is what's going to bring them back. It doesn't matter how touching or emotional or whatever impactful a mission is. If the event is a dud and boring, they're not going to tell their friends, they're not going to want to come back.
If it's not a good hang, it's not a good hang. It's
Right,
just not
yeah,
a good
yeah.
hang. It's like,
And
Yeah,
then
nobody wants to come back from a deal and go, "How was the event?" "Oh, it's
it
got a
was a
great
bad
mission, but they
hang.
had
I'm
cold
oh,
corn
it's
allergic to
dogs.
bad
fine.
hangs.
They
Yeah.
had cold corn
Yeah.
dogs and watered down drinks. It
Yeah.
sucked."
Right, yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, and then I
good.
mean,
That's
mission
good.
focused, mission centered throughout the communications at the event. Keep it in the
Uh,
forefront. Hmm.
That's
I
really
love that.
good.
My follow-up question, I asked you this yesterday, or just as projecting. What are you interested in trying that you haven't done yet that you will, of course, you're not going to try anything that's not going to be successful. But what are you interested, like, I think we talked about before we got on air. It's like, what are you interested in just like trying, or I saw another organization do this, or J and T had this, person on as a guest or something like that. And you're just like, I want to do that. Like, what are you kind of,
Yeah, yeah. A big thing top of mind for us is just how we're running our silent auction.
mm,
Right now, we open an online auction the
yeah,
Monday through Friday before the event.
okay,
So it closes on Friday night, and then our event is on Saturday. So
okay,
we don't bring the majority of our silent auction items to the event since they sold online. We only bring the things that people purchase, and then we do a smaller in-person
exclusive.
silent auction, exclusive,
Yeah.
exactly, with a super
Mhm.
silent auction. And it's
Oh,
just it's a lot of effort to raise like $17,000, which sounds like a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of percents, it's like maybe 60% of the effort to raise 5% of the money.
There you go.
And so
yeah,
just figuring out, do we need still that big of an online auction? Can we bleed it into that it closes at the event? Just
yeah,
figuring out exactly what that,
yep.
obviously don't have a clear direction, but I think that that's a piece that I think could definitely change.
Love that. There is a lot of opportunity there, but yeah, you're like you said, it has to be done right. There could be a little bit of fatigue, maybe same, 200 folks are coming back or whatever percentage, 60%. Hey, Daphne
Hmm.
had a real quick question. Jay, we're gonna grab a winner. I'm not
I've got a
interrupting you if
winner.
you have
I'm
another
ready to go. So
question.
just let's do the question. We'll do that.
But oh, Daphne just, and it's a good question. But I'm assuming, Becky, that this is the biggest, obviously, fundraiser of the year, of
It
course.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
So right now it brings in about 50 to 60% of our income, which is
Okay.
something we are hoping to move away from. So not we don't want to make this event smaller, obviously. We want to
Yeah.
invest in some other income streams of
Hmm.
bolstering grants, bolstering other events,
Hmm.
just because it'd be a big bummer if something didn't work out with it. And
No,
that's
you're
just a
you're just
huge
talking about
piece of
having
the
all your eggs
pie.
in one basket and just hedging in a really productive
Exactly.
way. I get
Hmm.
you. I mean, another thing is like, and I wanted to kind of get into this. We're running out of time, but I was like, you all seem like you're ripe for like a real exclusive, smaller, like sponsored event with just like a real
Hmm.
tight knit group that you could raise money with for sure.
Yeah,
Not
we
putting
do
that on.
host another small event in the fall.
Hmm.
It's at our winery, focused on the games, all the games that we play at the
Hmm.
gala, to win
Cool.
wine that,
Hmm.
yeah,
Oh,
people
that's
just
fun.
love.
Yeah, that's fun. There you go. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Other
Yeah,
opportunities. Yeah. Um,
exactly.
Well, good,
Okay,
good
I
stuff.
got to draw a winner real quick. So let's do this. I've got a winner, and it is Jazz Hen Robinson. Jazz Hen Robinson.
All
All
right.
right. So
Yay.
Hey,
Jazz,
Jazz, thanks for coming.
reach up and just touch the spin button. Nope, you got to
I
push it a
still
little
don't understand the
harder.
color scheme with this with the split pea soup, but it's okay. It's
Okay,
okay.
there it
It's money.
goes.
It's money. That's why
Well,
it's
I
green.
know
I
you'd think
know
that
why.
we'd have it HGA blue and white, but
It's green. I get it. It's money. Jazz, you're gonna win something.
all right.
$300. Yes. Very
300
cool.
bucks of HGA bucks. That
Woohoo.
means you can use that
Yeah.
for any of our items
The most
that you
profitable
use.
auction items in fundraising.
And so
Yep.
you can do that. So congratulations, Jazz. Thank you so much for being here.
So cool, Jazz. Thanks so much. Hey, thanks everybody for coming. And thank you, Becky.
Oh
Awesome.
yeah. Big
Oh,
hand for
Awesome.
always
Becky,
a
everybody.
pleasure.
You rock. Hey, we've come a long way. We've come a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you so much. Really, really cool. And yeah, this is obviously your invite to come back again. And thanks everybody so much for coming. Thanks for being so willing to share and so open to help. Really, really appreciate you, Becky, and everything that you're doing. So yeah,
Yeah.
we will do it again. And we should yeah, once you try a few new things, we should have you back on again and we'll talk about it. I think it'd be really, really fun.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you all. Lovely to share my little bit of expertise.
I love
It
it.
was a
I love it.
lot.
Well, you're
Thank you.
really doing it. You know, we've always been a huge fan of yours. So,
Yep.
hey, everybody, we're super easy to reach. Jason at hjfundraising.com, Trevor at hjfundraising.com. You can go to our website, sign up for that free coaching session that we alluded to a few times. Our time is free. We're only here to help. We will share a bunch of experience and data with you and talk anything fundraising. We're very passionate about it. So please hit us up for that. And don't be shy on social. Reach out to us, show us some love. Make sure you subscribe on our YouTube channel and all that good stuff. And we will see you all again next Thursday. So thanks so much. Thanks, Becky. Means the
Thank
world. Thank you
you.
so much. Thanks, brother. I'll talk to you
See you
soon.
guys.
Y'all have a great afternoon. Thank you.